This is the 11th video of Play Chess and Play It Good, and in this video we will be talking about puzzle chess terms. I don't know what to call it. Well, so it's basically like chess terms for puzzles, like tactics. I hope you'll understand. So here it's basically when the rook attacks the knight, you can defend. And attacking is when this, like a piece is threatening your opponent's piece, or your opponent threatens one of your pieces. And now you can defend because it's protecting it. So this is called the fork, and you have two ways of forking. So forking is basically when you attack two pieces at once, and they cannot save both of them, like this. These two pieces are attacked, and you know that the king is the most important piece of the game, so you can't move your rook, so you have to move your king. So there's another way to fork your opponent, or black, which is like this. The king is attacked, and so is the rook. Now the rook is gone. So this is called the pin, and that is when a piece, like in this case it's a rook, is pinning the bishop from moving because the king is going to be under attack if the bishop moves. And since the king doesn't have any way to protect it, you lose the bishop. You can't move the bishop because I already told you the king is going to be under attack, and then they would just take your king. So this is called a skewer. A skewer is kind of like a pin, but so basically, to explain this more clearly, the weaker piece is in front of the piece that is being attacked, and the more important or stronger piece is behind, and the stronger piece can't defend. Well, that's not really related. So this is when the more important piece is in front of the less important piece. So now you have to move your king. If you don't move your king, you'll lose the king. In this one, you couldn't move your bishop because, well, it was a pin. And now this is called a battery. It is when a piece and another piece are like on the same diagonal, and they're attacking, like building up pressure on a certain piece or square. In this case, it's the h7 pawn. And I didn't actually explain what like these things were, but it's basically, this is the H file. It's kind of hard to explain, but I'm just gonna say the pawn in front of the king. I'll talk about that in another video. So, like this, the bishop is protecting the queen, and the king can't take this because of that. So that is why it is called a battery, because one piece is protecting the other, so then it can take the pawn you desire to take. And it doesn't always have to be across diagonals, which are the things that the queens and bishops can move in. It can also move, like, you can also use it horizontally with a rook and a queen, or anything really, except for a knight. A knight wouldn't have really good battery. I don't think it would. So this is basically where you can use vertically and horizontally. So it's basically the same. The rook is protecting the queen, so yeah. The king doesn't really have anywhere to go. It's checkmate. And the discovered attack is basically when you have a piece that is attacking the queen if you move the piece that is blocking the path, which is the pawn right here. Now it's attacking the queen has to move. So yeah. So the discovered attack is basically the same as the discovered check, but except that the discovered check is with a check. And basically it's just a king being attacked by a piece when you move that the other piece that is blocking the path. It's basically the same except with a king. And now this one is a little hard to understand, but it's kind of easy. Well, okay, I actually did something wrong. I'll just explain it to you. When you take this piece, the queen takes, it would be a check. I made a mistake, but whatever. Just ignore that. So imagine this wasn't actually a check, and then white would take on this piece, and then it would be checkmate. That is why the queen cannot take this. So, well, I'm just saying ignore that that piece, that check. So now the last one is called deflection, and it's kind of the same as the last one, which was overload. It is when you deflect a piece from its protection. In this case, you really didn't have to, you don't need to play that move. You could do something way better than that, but that's not the point of this example. It's just to show you that if the queen takes, now you take the rook, and now you lose the rook for a bishop, which is bad normally. But we'll talk about that in a later video. So, there's also, it's in a pin, so if you don't want to lose the rook, well, you'll lose the queen. That's even worse, so don't do that. Well, I hope you learned these chess terms. They're not like all of the chess terms that there is, but it's just some of the ones from the puzzles. So I hope you understood this video. It was kind of weird, but I hope you understand it. And subscribe to my channel 26 Diagonals for more videos, and like the video if you could understand it, that is. And bye!